Namaste, Sat Sri Akal. Good to see you all. Kia ora. Welcome to India. As you will have heard, we've had an economic breakthrough in the economic relationship with India, with the announcement of our comprehensive free trade agreement negotiations able to commence. And so it's a really good win. It's a great win for New Zealand. Obviously, it forms part of a desire to have a deeper and broader relationship with India, not just in the economic sphere, but also in the defence and also in the people-to-people links. But this is a really good start to this visit, and we're really excited about the transformation of this economic opportunity that exists between these two great countries. And with that, Todd, I'll let you talk a bit more about it.
Well, Prime Minister, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to India. It's an exciting day in as far as, the relationship with India. Both sides have put a lot of work and effort in over the last 15 months to broaden the relationship and deepen it. There's been ongoing contact between our officials. It intensified from my last trip to India in December of last year, where there have been frequent engagements, including formal meetings. My counterpart, Minister Goyal, and I have now met 8 times. It's my 5th visit to India to talk about our trading relationship, and I'm very pleased that we're able to announce that we've reached agreement to formally start negotiations from today. The first negotiation round will take place, it'll start next month, and we have committed to working as quickly as we can to deliver agreement that works for both sides. Out of respect for our negotiators, we won't be talking about the detail of the negotiation, but New Zealanders can rest assured that we're working hard to get the very best deal that we can for them. Although we've had a lot to achieve over the last 15 months, the hard work starts now.
Great. I just want to commend Todd and his drive to actually get this to this point. There's been a lot of work that's gone into it, but as I've said before, what we're looking for is a deeper, broader relationship, and that work really began 16 months ago with Todd, with his meeting with his trade counterparts, Judith Collins having met with Minister Singh on the defence piece, Winston Peters obviously having visited here, myself having spent time with the President, but also with Prime Minister Modi on calls and then in-person meetings in Laos. The fact that then they've invited us here for a state visit and then to be able to kick it off this way is really special. With that, happy to take your questions.
Can you give a guarantee that Dehli will be included in the free trade agreement?
Well, what I can give you a guarantee is that Todd McClay and myself will work incredibly hard to make sure that we can get the best deal possible for New Zealanders. And again, we're not going to go into the detail. We appreciate that dairy will be... Sure, but actually we haven't got to this part in the past, and actually New Zealand is actually being well served by this Trade Minister, working incredibly hard, building those relationships, getting it to this part, having a state visit here to India, and then actually kicking off these negotiations. So again, we know there will be challenges on a number of topics for both sides. As you would expect in a trade negotiations, we will work those through.
We actually have been here before. There were 10 series of trade talks a decade ago, and we know we were optimistic.
Last conversation I think was 9 or 10 years ago. Exactly, that's the case, and we wouldn't have kicked this off if we weren't confident that we can actually work incredibly hard together to get ourselves to a good place that actually works for an agreement for both India and New Zealand.
Will this build on those talks, or do you see this as starting with a fresh slate?
This is starting with a fresh slate completely.
What's the indicative timeline on this?
I'll let Todd.
Well, both sides have said we want to do it as quickly as we can. There's been a lot of discussion at official levels, not about the detail of agreement, but actually some of the ways forward and how we might look to deal with some of the issues that have come up in other negotiations. Both sides have said that we want to do it quickly, but we've also agreed we need to do a good job. And so I won't set out a timeline, but we have committed to getting on with the job.
How many rounds of talks do you anticipate?
Well, it will take as many as are needed, but ultimately, because we're starting from a new place rather than picking up with a negotiation from 9 years ago, there will be many of them. The first one will be next month. The officials will be exchanging information and texts both electronically, having online meetings, and then meetings in person. I expect the first in-person negotiation will take place in New Zealand. Well, they want a high quality and comprehensive agreement. They want one that works for both sides. You'll notice that much of the world is talking about balance in trade. The trade between India and New Zealand was very balanced. It's gone in India's favour. We sell them less than we used to, but there are many opportunities on both sides. For instance, we talk about, we've talked a little bit about investment with them, opportunities for Indians to invest in New Zealand businesses and here as well. So, but it's at a very broad level, and the Prime Minister's right. We're not going to talk about the detail of the negotiation because ultimately that's up to the negotiators, but both sides want to make sure it's a deal that works for, not only the businesses of the two countries, but the citizens as well. No, not at this stage because it's very early. Although I think what we've seen from the investment summit last week, there's great interest from around the world in investing in New Zealand. But no, we haven't had any detailed negotiations or conversations yet. I'll give the dairy industry the same guarantee the Prime Minister has done, that we'll get the very best deal that we can for all New Zealanders. The very best deal that we can get for all New Zealanders, but I'm not going into any detail.
Has getting to this point been influenced at all, do you think, by the kind of global conversation we're having about trade, particularly what's coming out of the US at the moment?
Well, I think it's influencing countries and trade ministers around the world, but this conversation with India started 15 months ago when I first came out here, weeks after the government was formed, and we've had an opportunity to understand the opportunities in both countries. And so I guess the better way to answer it is what's happening around the world hasn't hurt our chances of launching an agreement, but as all trade negotiations, this one will be as hard as any other is.
So you want to move forward swiftly. Does that mean that you expect or are open to some kind of an interim deal, something that you would add on to later, similar to Australia?
Well, the joint text that we we published today, it was published on the Indian Ministry's website, says a comprehensive free trade agreement. Both sides are aiming for a comprehensive agreement.
Prime Minister, the tariff war started by the United States. Do you think will have any impact on your trade talks with India?
Look, I mean, again, we've got to this place today by virtue of the work that we've done building the relationship over the last 16 months. We've worked it deliberately at a multiple level to make sure that we do broaden out that relationship. The trade piece of it, as we've talked about, this comprehensive FTA agreement and negotiations that will take place as a piece of it. There's other things around defence, security, obviously people-to-people links that we're here to advance over the course of our time together here as well. But I just say to you, New Zealand is a country that has done well by virtue of the free trade of goods and services all around the world, and so we always advocate very strongly, against tariffs because we actually think New Zealand has benefited, as have many countries actually, from a much more open movement of goods and services around the world.
So, Minister, aside from trade, what are the other things you're looking forward to in this trip? What are the things you want to sort of push along?
Well, I mean, again, we've got a very comprehensive set of meetings tomorrow, a series of engagements with Prime Minister Modi at a one-on-one level, in a smaller group, and obviously in our formal bilateral as well, and some other informal moments with a state lunch and other events to catch up with as well. It's really a good chance for us to talk about what's happening within the region and a defence and a security point of view. As I've been saying, and as I think many leaders have understood, is that we can't have economic prosperity if we don't have defence and security stability in the region. And so we'll be talking about, obviously there's some of the geopolitical dimensions that are happening within the region, and more importantly, how do we work together in a much deeper way in a defence security sense as well. Obviously we've got this piece of work around the commerce and the economic side, and then there's things I think we need to do on the people-to-people links. I mean, this is a relationship that just has so much opportunity. I mean, this is the most populous country on planet Earth. It's going to be the third largest economy very shortly. In a multipolar world, it's a very significant geostrategic player in the region, but also now out in the world. And just remember, we have 300,000 amazing Kiwis of Indian descent, that are really a bridge between India and New Zealand. So, this is a relationship that has just so much upside, so much potential, and that's why we've been so determined to come here, and that's why I was just saying that before the election, that's why we're here, and it's great that we are.
Prime Minister, can you just expand more on the security and defence partnership that you're looking for with India?
Look, we want to have deeper engagement. We want to have, well, we'll have more to say about that as we go through the course of the next few days. But I mean, for now, what we're saying is that we want to participate in the Indo-Pacific region, as you have seen us do in Northeast Asia, as you see us do with our 5 power arrangements in Southeast Asia, as you've seen us do, obviously we're deepening our relationship with Australia. So, we want to be involved and engaged, and we want to have more presence and more impact in the Indo-Pacific region, working with like-minded countries wherever we can. And so, we think there's an opportunity for us to continue to deepen up our military and our defence ties with India as well.
When you say trade and defence are linked, do you also mean that, what do you mean by that? Do you mean that by growing New Zealand's economy, you can afford more to spend more on defence, or do you mean that in another sense?
It's just the sense that, we want to see prosperity and peace across our region of the Indo-Pacific region, but you actually don't get to secure the prosperity if you don't have stability and security in the region, and that's why I keep saying those two issues are very much interdependent. If you've got an unstable environment full of conflict, as we've seen in the Ukraine, and you think about the impact Ukraine's war has caused on Western Europe, Africa, even Southeast Asia with respect to rice prices and how that impacts people economically and hurts them really hard. Conflict, instability, a lack of security causes huge pain and suffering, which means that prosperity doesn't result. And so if you can't secure prosperity for your people, then you often destabilise the system as well. So that's a mutually mutually dependent thing.
You joined Keir Starmer's call for the coalition for the willing. What did you take away from that call in terms of what more New Zealand could be doing?
Well, it was really an opportunity to with a number of leaders to get updated on the different lines of diplomatic effort that are going in to make sure that we can secure a ceasefire in Ukraine. I just would say first and foremost, though, that at any point in time, Russia can stop this war. And that would be our first request and port of call, is that they can stop what is an immoral and illegal war today. That is very much the case. Our conversation was then fixated on, how do we, just the diplomatic efforts, as I said, that are going into making sure that we can secure a 30-day ceasefire as a starter. But again, the ball is now in the court of Russia about that, and it's up to them to actually step up and actually reciprocate. And we haven't seen that. We haven't seen that. And so, again, we will continue our engagement with like-minded countries. We obviously haven't had no specific asks from us at this point in time, and that's natural given that there isn't a peace that has been brokered at this point in time. So it's all very premature. We would obviously want to make sure that any decisions we take, we also take in conjunction through a full cabinet process back home in New Zealand as well. But for us, it's about making sure that we are aligned with like-minded countries. We stand very strongly with Ukraine, as I've said, because the values they are fighting for are values that are very important to us in New Zealand, and I'm proud of the support that we've been able to offer. As a small country on the other side of the world with limited resources, it's important that we play our part. But it was good to be able to be part of those conversations.
Would you characterise New Zealand as being part of the coalition of the willing?
Well, no. There is no. We have not been asked to join a coalition of the willing, and that is something that a cabinet decision would actually need to take place before we did. But what this was about was importantly to say, like-minded countries coming together who really want to stand with Ukraine. What are the different strands of diplomatic effort that's going on across the world and through Europe to make sure we can secure a 30-day ceasefire as a starting point.
Do you expect that call, that ask to come though? Were there signals that that formal request will come at some point?
Well, I think as I've signalled before, we stand with Ukraine. We have the same value set. We've undertaken what we think we can support them with through sanctions on Russians, entities and individuals, through contributions financially, through training troops with the Brits. So it's not surprising that we're there. These are like-minded countries, but again, any decision around any formal engagement, it's all too premature. There is no peace plan today, and until there is one, there's no ask on us, and again, that's something we'd take back to our cabinet.
But did you get any signal that you'll probably get that request at some stage?
Well, no, because that would be premature given we don't have a peace plan at the moment. And then what we're trying to focus on is securing that through initially a ceasefire. And so, you've seen I think, a very brave decision by President Zelensky to step up to the plate and actually say, yep, I'm up for this is what I can support a 30-day ceasefire. And now the ball is in the court of Putin and Russia, and what we've seen is a whole bunch of vacillation, and at the end of the day, they need to be stepping up to the plate as well.
Last couple, guys.
Sorry?
Well, we've seen over the last 6 years trade between Australia and India, at least Australian exports increased by about 7 billion New Zealand dollars. I think the very best way to look at this is, although our trading relationship with India is strong, given the size of their market, there is exponential opportunity for New Zealand, just as a lot of opportunities for Indian businesses down in New Zealand. Think about the free trade agreement with China. When it was first signed, the two-way trade was similar to that between New Zealand and India today, and we have $40 billion worth of two-way trade. So the reason that we're going to take the time to make sure we get this right on both sides is to set a foundation of clear rules that businesses can rely upon and give New Zealand businesses and India businesses the very best chance to grow that relationship. But to answer your question, we haven't done any modelling, but the opportunity for New Zealand is more than significant.
Reflecting on the fact that for the last 9 years we've been a Prime Minister visit India and the relationship or negotiations essentially, some would argue, have been put on ice. What's your reflection on the way that we have valued or undervalued this relationship?
Look, I think we have undervalued this relationship, frankly. This is, as I said, the most populous country, going to be the third biggest economy. We have very small level of trade. 1.5% of our exports go here. It's our 12th trading partner, yet it's the third biggest economy in the world. And so, or will be very shortly. And so, there's just huge opportunities. So I can't speak to the past. All I can speak to, as I've said, in opposition and coming through and forming government, that this is a really important priority for us. India and New Zealand are two countries that should have a much, much deeper and broader relationship with each other than we have. What I'm really proud about is actually the groundwork that we've put in over the last 16 months to get us to this point. The fact that we actually have been able to establish leader-to-leader relationships with Prime Minister Modi, that we've got on well, we've enjoyed our time and in conversations together, and that has led to an invitation to come here on a state visit like this. And then already this has led to the opening up of the economic part of the relationship, moving that up to the next level, which is what we want to do. We want more momentum, we want more energy, we want more drive in this relationship, and I think you're seeing both India and New Zealand, both parties actually stepping up to the plate and actually wanting that as well.
Did you sign that off? I'm just wondering whether you knew that you were going to kind of launch negotiations when you're coming into it, or was it just kind of
Today.
It was today, but I'll let Todd talk to that.
Today. I mean, there's been a lot of increased engagement over the last few months following my visit up here in December. Officials have met a lot. I've had many conversations with my counterpart over the phone, but no, we reached agreement to launch today.
Was it announced in the right way today as planned? It seems like it went live a few hours ago.
It was as we had discussed with them.
Yeah.
Way to start off the trip.
Sorry?
Quite a nice surprise.
It's a great way to start the trip. I mean, we've got a breakthrough economic agenda here in terms of being able to advance a comprehensive free trade agreement, but we've also got a massive determination to lift with great intensity our relationship across the board with India, and we're looking forward to those conversations in the next few days. And again, I think you're seeing an Indian government that's been incredibly generous and very, very welcoming to New Zealand, and it speaks to the way that they also want to deepen this relationship in the same way we have brought the biggest delegation that's ever accompanied a Prime Minister. We've brought a business delegation, we've brought a community delegation, our Kapahaka team, because we actually want to make this as big as it possibly can be, because the size of the prize is immense. And actually what's it's all about? It's about actually getting cash back into Kiwis' pockets, and we do that by growing our economy and expanding our trade opportunities. That's important.
Last one, guys. I just want to ask you about your recent call to the United States with the trade representative there. What was the purpose of that call? Are you any closer to tariff exemptions?
The USTR has only just gone through the confirmation process a few weeks ago, so it's the first opportunity to have a formal conversation with them. The call lasted for about 45 minutes. It was constructive and it was friendly. We had an opportunity to talk a lot about the two-way trading relationship, and as I've said before, both sides agreed that it was well balanced and it was complementary. We didn't get into any detail over tariffs, but certainly made the case for why New Zealand respects the rules. We don't change our currency. We don't put in place barriers to exclude others, and that we abide by those rules. We've agreed that officials will continue to talk and understand the relationship better, and that Ambassador Greer and I will meet quite soon.
Is Minister Peters building on that relationship as well with this visit?
Well, I think you see across the government everybody is putting great effort into the relations with the US, and yes, the Deputy Prime Minister visiting Washington is a very big part of ensuring that the US knows that from a trade point of view and in everything else, we are friends they can count on.
Have you considered dropping the tariffs that are higher than this one so that when reciprocals kick in,
Cabinet hasn't had an opportunity to consider anything yet.
I go to the last question. Yeah, we'll go.
Very impressed by how you are receiving the airport and all the billboards around.
Oh no, it's just like this is a fantastic country. It's a country I know really well. I've visited many times in my former life before I came to politics. Country I love deeply. It's characterised by people with an immense talent. You see it even in our diaspora back at home. It's a younger diaspora. It's actually better educated. They earn higher incomes than New Zealand in general, and they've made a tremendous contribution in New Zealand. I've always been so proud about how hard they work. They take 2 or 3 jobs. They leave their culture, their families behind, come to New Zealand, make an awesome contribution. So no, it's fantastic to be in India again. It's a country I love deeply, and I'm really proud of the progress that we're making already. All right, thanks, team.
Last question. Historically, New Zealand's policies and economy has been China-centric. Do we see any change in this trend in the coming days?
We are flat out making sure we build trade anywhere and everywhere we can, because 1 in 4 of our jobs back at home in New Zealand are tied to trade and to exports, and that's why you've seen us hit it hard in Southeast Asia, Northeast Asia, now in India, and also China. It's about and. We want to be doing as much trade and business as we can with everyone around the world. Okay, thanks team, see you later.
Thank you. Kia ora.